call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mary Beth?
Councilwoman Chapman.
Here.
Councilman Deegan. Councilman Reifenberg.
Here.
Supervisor Albrecht.
Here.
Town Attorney Emily Swenson.
Here.
All present.
I'd like to have a motion to amend the agenda and put 10A before the public hearings.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight to celebrate a very special family. A community is usually defined as a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. When we are searching for a new place to call home, we can only hope to stumble upon nice neighbors. We all need to be surrounded with people that generally care for the well-being of others. Only these type of people can create a community that is more than just a bunch of individuals living next to each other. It is where we find encouragement and a sense of belonging. It is a place where we can make a difference and create a positive change. And it's through the appreciation of our community that we can truly understand its value. It is not about just saying thank you, but it's also about recognizing the contributions of others and working together to make a difference. Whether it's volunteering their time, sharing knowledge, supporting local businesses, or simply lending a hand, these acts of kindness demonstrate the true spirit of our community. Tonight, we are here to celebrate and appreciate these inspiring acts of kindness within our community. Now let's recognize and honor this family that goes out of their way to make a difference. We would like to welcome Jay and Madeline Kiggins and recognize their beautiful daughters, Madison, Juliana, and Mia. We would also like to acknowledge and welcome their parents, nieces, siblings, as well as all their friends. The love and respect this community has for the Kiggins family is very present tonight. Please join me in a round of applause welcoming the Kiggins family. So I asked their daughter Madison for some insight on her parents, and she sent me some inspiring words about them. And I quote, "My parents taught my sisters and I how to work in a fast-paced environment and what it takes to work in the food industry. They have demonstrated the ins and outs of being successful business owners. They have shown us that it's not only about showing up and working for the day, it is so much more than that. It is giving back to your loyal customers. It's going above and beyond for those who have supported you and the new customers. It is giving job opportunities to people that might not have experienced, who might not be experienced, but who are willing to learn. During the pandemic, they became creative for families that had to stay in, creating a home pizza kit as a family activity for families to stay busy. They learned how to navigate through those times as all the business owners had to do. As the tight-knit family that we are, we worked long hours to keep employees as safe as possible, still showing up for our town even when it was down to the 5 of us in the kitchen. They made it happen. If there is one thing to say about Jay and Madeline, it is that they will do everything in their power to fulfill a customer's needs or wants, no matter what the case may be. We would always laugh when our dad would come back and say, "So I committed to a barbecue food catering," or the time they committed to a 200-person wedding. They wouldn't know a thing about it, but somehow they came together, produced it very successfully. It amazes us how motivated and optimistic my parents are and what they can accomplish together. So just a little funny. Our daughters, Catherine and Kellyanne, worked for Jay and Madeline for quite a few years. My daughters told me after closing up Madison's after hours, while the staff was cleaning up for the night, Jay would have mini concerts. He would turn up the music, grab a mop or a broom, and start singing into it as a microphone along to any song. They told me Jay and Madeline would never tolerate their staff being talked down to, always coming to their employees' defense. When Catherine left for the Air Force, they fully supported her hopes and dreams. And when Kellyanne was in Vassar Hospital for 10 days, they sent her food and paid her for the month she missed work. This goes to show their generosity has no bounds. I was recently going through some phone pictures on my iPhone to delete, and I came across a prior highway superintendent's retirement party from a few years ago we had at Jason Patrick's. This was when I remembered I had asked Jay if he would take a group picture of the town's employees who were at the party. And to my surprise, there was one picture of Jay taking a selfie with a big smile laughing at himself. It just made me laugh. My daughter said if you left your phone out on the counter, Jay would get a big kick out of taking selfies on your phone. So let's talk just a little bit about Jay. Jay is the face of the business and larger than life. Jay is supportive, kind, knows everyone, fiercely protective of his employees and his family, and is the best role model for what a girl dad should be. He is very active on social media, which keeps him in touch with his community and his patrons. He will do videos starting off with, "Good morning. How's it going? Just checking in. We are here at Madison's or Jason Patrick's." He is dedicated to his employees, always throwing them a fabulous Christmas party at the end of the year. As his business hosts many events, Jay thrives on establishing his restaurant as a place his patrons want to remember as an establishment full of memories, not only just for family, but for the people. So let's talk a little bit about Madeline. Madeline has a smile that lights up a room. She is quiet, strong, brave, super funny, fills multiple roles in the business, and is always willing to take on the next business adventure, always putting her time to the side. She keeps her family grounded. She's a fierce defender of her employees and her family. While she gets fired up sometimes, she'll say, "I'm not loud, I'm Italian." Even though she looks more like one of their sisters, Madeline is a wonderful example to her daughters of, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and loved more than you know. The Kiggins family traditions have been established, excuse me, we're going to talk about family traditions. The Kiggins family has been established in the business community for many years. They started off with Jay's Pizza, on to Juliana's Deli, then to Madison's, and then to Jason Patrick's. Now they have a bar cart, mobile pizza truck, and they do catering, all the while being intertwined with raising 3 daughters, supporting their girls in sports, coaching, dance, and they still somehow manage to show up for the most important people in their lives. Their family has strong values and family traditions, always hosting the holidays. Madison, Juliana, and Mia always remember the most beautiful thing in this world is to see your parents smiling and know that the 3 of you are the reasons behind those smiles. Your parents are so very proud of all of you. So for those who remember the sitcom Cheers, the theme song has a catchy theme. When it comes to Where Everybody Knows Your Name, the tune is one tinged with melancholy and riddled with hard luck. But when the opening twinkle of the piano keys fluttered through the living rooms every Thursday night, it was impossible not to feel the sense of belonging. The Cheers song became an ode to the everyday down and outer, holding in its words the glimmerous promise of a place where everybody knows your name. This song begins with, "Making your way in the world today takes everything you got." It goes on about cards, life deals, and the places you go to find solace. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? There is more to the tune as it describes the struggling and the downtrodden with the care and understanding that only come from shared experiences. All those nights when you got no lights, the check is in the mail, and your little angel hung the cat up by its tail, and your third fiancé didn't show. This song continues before the uplifting chorus. Sometimes you want to go where everyone knows your name. They're always glad you came. You want to be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You want to be where everybody knows your name. These iconic lines illustrate perfectly the reason the world has its neighborhood bars and nightly staples. The song heaps on hard times with roll out of bed, Mr. Coffee is dead, the morning's looking bright, and your shrink ran off to Europe and didn't even write. This song perfectly describes the warm, welcoming feeling when you walk into Madison's and Jason Patrick's. Instead of yelling Norm, you want to yell out Jay. You can always be glad there is a place in the world where you are greeted with kindness and a sense of belonging and community. It is truly a place where everyone knows your name. So just a little notable mention. When there is a snowstorm or any type of inclement weather, if Jay decides to close up Madison's early, he will call our highway superintendent, John Baxter, and ask if he needs any food for the guys, as Jay knows they are working long, hard shifts and wants to be sure there is food when they get back to the highway garage. A few weeks ago, there was a planning board meeting going on, and Jay was in the audience. He needed to leave, so he told our court officers he'll be right back. Jokingly, the court officer said to him, "Hey, when you come back, can you bring a Sicilian pizza?" A little while later, Jay came back with plates, cups, soda, and Sicilian pizza. Ask and you shall receive. So to Madeline, Jay, Madison, Juliana, and Mia, I speak not only for myself, everyone in this room, and the residents of this community. We all say thank you for being examples of the most generous persons are those who give silently without hope or praise or reward. I'd like to give a big shout out to Madison and Riley Kiggins for all their help and support, being a wealth of information for me. You two are the best. Now let's please stand up and give a loud round of applause to the recipients of the next Pleasant Valley Making a Difference Award, the Kiggins family. So Supervisor Albright is now going to read a proclamation for them.
Pleasant Valley Citizens Making a Difference Award in honor of the Kiggins family. Whereas the town of Pleasant Valley is here today to recognize the Kiggins family who has embraced their community by giving many hours of their commitment, heart, and soul, and whereas the Kiggins family has graciously donated countless hours to Sparrow's Nest, Angels of Light, New Horizons golf tournaments, coaching, numerous sponsorships, spaghetti dinners at West Road School, bake sales, senior programs, provided displaced families late night dinners when Town Hall was used as an emergency shelter, end of season parties for multiple sports teams, and countless more. And whereas the Kiggins family demonstrates the true spirit of community, and whereas it is important to remember the happiest people are not those getting more, but those giving more. And whereas the town of Pleasant Valley wishes to extend our sincere appreciation to the Kiggins family for being examples of volunteers do not necessarily have the time, they just have the heart. And now, therefore, be it resolved, the town board and the town clerk for the town of Pleasant Valley hereby recognize the Kiggins family, and as a community, we proclaim National Pizza Day on February 9th, 2025 as the Kiggins Family Day. And we encourage all residents of our town to join in recognizing and supporting their kindness, generosity, and providing places to go where everyone knows your name. dated today and signed by everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
On behalf of my family and friends and everybody in town, I just want to say thank you for coming out tonight and for this incredible award. Like, I'm speechless. This is unbelievable. Growing up in this town and being able to open a business in this town and thrive with this town and be behind this town with everything is just what we love to do. And to be recognized like this is incredible. Again, thank you so much for everybody that came out tonight and that constantly supports us and our family. And thank you so much for the kind words and everything that you guys do. And this town is amazing. Thank you so much.
And they're not kidding. We were here, what was it for? We had a bit, like a mini tornado come through down 44. And we were here late at night. And somebody says, well, where are we going to get pizza? So Frank Mazzella says, I know where you're going to get pizza. You're going to call, well, I'm calling Jay on his personal cell phone. I mean, it was late. It was about 11 o'clock or something. He was all closed up, everything. Next thing you know, the pizzas were being delivered. So it was really a wonderful thing. Thank you. Okay, onward to the agenda. We have two.
This is where we tell people they can leave.
I'm sorry,
This
what?
is where we tell
You
people
don't
they can
want to
go.
hang out.
Yeah, oh,
You-
yeah,
like,
you can, yeah.
You're not gonna hurt her
you can-
feelings.
You can absolutely leave. Yeah, bye, honey, bye, Rich. I just have to read this. Okay. Our first public hearing is, I am in receipt of the affidavit of posting pertaining to the Town of Pleasant Valley, Local Law E of 2024. A local law of the Town of Pleasant Valley, Dutchess County, New York, amending Chapter 9 of the Code of Town of Pleasant Valley entitled Code of Ethics by the Town Clerk, Mary Beth Muir, on November 18, 2024, and the affidavit of publication by the Northern Dutchess News dated November 27th, December 4th, and December 11th, 2024. I'd like to make a motion to open up the public hearing for for Chapter 9 of the Code of the Town of Pleasant Valley entitled Code of Ethics.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And can we just, is there any way you could just go over?
So, This local law replaces the existing code of ethics, which we found was a little bit light in some areas as far as giving the detail that's needed for the ethics board to evaluate things. So this gives more detail about the ethical rules for municipal officials, the procedures of the ethics board, and the disclosure statements that all officials need to fill out. This has been prepared by Attorney Warren Raplansky and reviewed with the ethics board and gotten their buy-in and approval. So we're opening the public hearing. Warren did ask us to hold it open until the January meeting, I guess probably the second meeting, not the reorg meeting, so that he could follow up on any issues.
Thank you.
Would anybody like to speak on the Code of Ethics?
So I'll make a motion to adjourn the public hearing until January 22nd of 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to not reopen, to continue on with the local law C of 2024, a local law repealing and replacing Chapter 44 for dogs.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I threw you off. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So both the dog law and the short-term rental law, we don't have anything new at this time, so these hearings are continued this evening. We have been getting a lot of written comments in, and I would expect, or I would recommend that the board also adjourn these two hearings after people have a chance to speak to January 22nd, so that we can review all the comments and see if we want to make changes.
Would anybody like to speak on the dog law?
Not seeing anybody, I'll make a motion to adjourn this public hearing to January 22nd, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'll do this differently. I'll ask for a motion to have a continuation of the proposed Law D of 2024, a local law creating a new Chapter 75 of the Town Code titled Short-Term Rentals.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody would like to speak?
Does that work? Good evening. My name is Richard Olson. I'm of counsel with the law firm of Mackey, Butts, and Whalen. Our office was retained by Kelly Rettel and David Hardesty to comment on the proposed short-term rental law. You have my submission of December 10th, which you should be able to go through. I'll just highlight briefly, I think that the board needs to take a serious look at some of the definitions between the zoning code and the short-term rental code, because I find conflicts between them, such as your lodging definition, which restricts in the zoning law, but apparently allows lodging anywhere within the short-term rental law. More specifically, I think the board also needs to take a very careful look at what you're trying to regulate. I encourage you to regulate short-term rentals. Also, as a resident of Pleasant Valley, I do not want to see them proliferate throughout this town. And I think you need to look at what you are regulating and come up with better definitions, other than the fact that a short-term rental is simply under 31 days. I have suggested in my submission to you that possibly you come up with a concept of transient zoning being taken of rentals less than 14 days, and perhaps eliminating those, and then a vacation rental definition. Also, I think it's incumbent upon the board to take a deeper look at this, and perhaps even consider a moratorium on all short-term rentals until you've had an opportunity to thoroughly go through your draft. Thank you.
Of course, I have to follow the attorney. I should have gone first. Would have been easier. Bill Geerlings, 11 Patricia Drive, Pleasant Valley. Mary Beth, I was listening to your speech about the Kiggins family, about being a community. My daughter also worked there. My daughter's Sweet 16 was the first catering job that Jay ever did. It was in a firehouse. So community is what Pleasant Valley is based upon. All right. I believe the town board should be in receipt of a letter with 18 signatures from the residents of Pleasant Valley, residents of Patricia Drive on Pleasant Valley. Patricia Drive is a community, and as you were saying earlier, where everyone knows your name. Everybody on the block knows each other. We've been to wedding parties. Neighbors are godparents to kids and to grandkids. It is a community where everybody knows your name. Saturday morning, I'm leaving my house 7:15, and I see a family walking up the block, and I'm sure there was no ill intent involved, but I have no idea who they were. In this situation, again, I'm sure there was nothing wrong, but we don't know. We all know each other. We watch out for each other. We bring each other's garbage in and out. We watch houses when people are away. We bring in the Amazon packages. All right? Patricia Drive is a community, and please, on January 22nd, I'd like you to remember that when you turn down this motion. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Hi, my name is Gene Kim. I live on Patricia Drive. Actually, that was my wife walking on Saturday morning around the neighborhood. We purchased the house on Patricia Drive as a second house, and we have a young daughter. Sure, can you hear me now? So we have a young daughter, and we come up here. We had actually family this weekend, and a couple friends to visit us and spend time up here in the Hudson Valley. So, you know, we feel that we want to be welcomed around here. We have introduced ourselves to our neighbors, and you know, there's no ill content on our side. We want to be able to enjoy the house that we purchased after working years to afford it. So, while I do appreciate our neighbors, you know, I'd love to introduce myself to you. I'd love to give you my phone number, all my contact stuff, but really, the way that, you know, we're using our house is for us and our friends and our families with young children to come by. I don't think, you know, a lady that's 5'2" walking in boots is a scary person in the neighborhood. They're not, excuse me? You're right, you didn't say it was, you're right. So,
Guys, Supervisor, I would ask you to please we can't have a back and forth. It's not
Please
beneficial
keep your
to anybody.
comments, and then if you want to speak again, you can.
I apologize. So, you know, we're doing our best. We want to be, we don't expect people to welcome us with open arms, but we are keeping to ourselves. We are not harmful, and it's our property, and we'd like to be able to enjoy it how we'd like. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Gary Vader, South Point Turnpike, Pleasant Valley. I moved here over 50 years ago when I was first married. Bought a house. We didn't have zoning when we moved here. I was active in working with them at that time. I say this because one of the biggest reasons for zoning was to protect the people that live here from a whole agenda of items that would make it safer. I think that I know I will say it for myself, would not want a motel next to me in the most restrictive district in town. I call it a motel, you call it something different. it would be an infringement on my privacy and my rights. And I think that passing anything that would help the situation, and in particularly the case that is currently under consideration, is a definite improvement. Thank you.
Monica Meddy, 17 Patricia Drive. There you go. Okay, there it is. Monica Meddy, 17 Patricia Drive. What's the definition of a hotel versus a home? We're single-family dwellings. I mean, you have 4 and 5 families coming. Isn't that a hotel, not a home? So if we looked into what the definition is, how many people are there, how many families are there, it was just a thought. Thanks.
Anyone else? I'd like a motion to close, no, excuse me, okay.
Phil Lamedi, 17 Patricia. I read over the proposal and I found it very lacking in any sort of enforcement, any indication of how this is going to be paid for. You know, are we just going to get our taxes increased so we can, you know, we can hire more people to enforce it? Or if there's no enforcing at all, you know, maybe a fine or something, and someone has a Airbnb making a lot of money on it, they'll just pay the fine. So that I'm very concerned about how it's written and any sort of enforcement, any teeth in the law.
Anybody else? I'll make a motion to adjourn the public hearing to January 22nd, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just, I tried to grab this last time for the last meeting, is that anybody interested, we are having discussion later on in the meeting if you wanted to wait around, but you can watch it online as well, so.
I'd like a motion to accept the meeting minutes for the workshop meeting and 2 public hearings from 12/12/24 and special town board meeting of 12/6/24.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All correspondence is on file in the town clerk's office. And we have no presentations. Okay. I'm going to, now I don't have to really say this, but in the future, before we start the public comment section in the beginning and the end of the meeting, I'd appreciate anyone wanting to speak to get online behind the first person speaking at the podium. I'd like a motion to open the public comment section of the meeting, and agenda items only, one time, 3 minutes per person.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Gary Reader, South Point Turnpike, Pleasant Valley. I think it was very proper and beneficial with the announcement of the new award given to the Keegan family, or whatever person is eligible. I do find it that 3 years ago, an award was made by a committee in the town that was endeavored to recognize people that have done stuff long-term over and residents of the Pleasant Valley. that award was unknown to me until I received it. And it was named after me, and there's been 2 since then. About a year ago, the plaque that was made and hanging in the town hall was removed. I'm sorry that this happened, and I think it actually hurt me, and also this kind of played down the recipient since then. It's a non-political award. We have no idea what their parties are, to be honest with you. And a committee made this up, and a committee votes on it now. So thank you.
Not seeing anyone else. I'd like to close the open portion, comment portion of the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Just 1 second, so it wouldn't be part of the public, I guess this is a question for Emily, the attorney, is, obviously it's an agenda item, so could we entitle them to 3 minutes to speak on whatever, we're discussing it, but it obviously wouldn't be a part of the public hearing.
So what happened was they opened it, had some comments, and then adjourned it to January 22nd. So the best way, if you want your comments to be part of the public hearing record, would be to either send them in on paper or come back on the 22nd. I'm just concerned if we let people speak now, other people have already left that thought that hearing was over. So you can speak if you want, but I think it wouldn't be part of the public hearing record tonight.
So we had a motion and a second, right?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, new business discussion. We have our county legislator, Deidre Houston, is going to give us an update. Welcome.
Good evening, all. Deirdre Houston, Dutchess County Legislator. I just wanted to come this evening and let you all know that last Monday at our regularly scheduled legislature board meeting, we did pass our county budget. It was a well-received budget. We feel like it's a good budget. It brings some priorities forward for the county executive, while also decreasing the tax levy slightly. But as you all know, with your assessments up, it's pretty easy to decrease the tax levy right now. So there is a small county portion of the tax bill that will be increased, dollar for dollar. But there was a tax levy decrease. And then 2 amendments that I was able to bring forward in the budget that I was proud of and got unanimous support from my colleagues was, the one is a $500,000 municipal innovation grant, which we call the MIG, and it will be through our county planning department, but it is going to be specific for seniors. And what I had thought of with this grant was, I know that Pleasant Valley has a senior drop-in center on Fridays, and it will allow you guys to apply for a grant for infrastructure, for if you need more furniture, if you need product, or a renovation of the space, especially as you're moving into a new town hall, hopefully, that it will allow you to apply for some grant dollars and really get your senior drop-in center updated. So I was happy to do that.
Is that online? Do you have something I can follow?
So it won't be, the amendment was part of the 2025 budget. And so when planning department releases it, I will certainly forward it right along to you, but you will get it through the Dutchess delivery, which I know you guys all get the press releases and the Dutchess delivery. It'll be through that, and it's through the planning department. So I'm expecting it'll come out maybe late in the first quarter. I know the planning department is really busy with grants. A couple years ago, we did the fire EMS grant, and there's still many outstanding fire companies and haven't been able to spend those dollars yet. So I think planning's trying to get those closed before they open another large grant. And then the other amendment I was able to get passed unanimously by my colleagues was $75,000 specific to veterans' transportation. We all know that veterans are struggling with transportation right now, especially where my district, which is, Amenia, Town of Washington, and Pleasant Valley. It's not so much an issue here, but certainly in Amenia and Town of Washington, where the bus doesn't go, and it goes into the village of Millbrook, and that's as far east as it goes. So we are going to start a program called Go Go Veteran. It's based on a program we have with the Office of the Aging, which is Go Go Grandparent, which is rides on demand for senior citizens, and this will be for veterans specific. So if a veteran has to get to an appointment or to see someone, get to Castle Point, wherever they need to go, they will be able to get a ride on demand with a veteran peer taking them, and the $75,000 will allow for the car. So I'm really happy to bring that forward. And those were the two amendments I was able to put forward that I was proud of. And so I just wanted to come and give you guys the update on the county budget.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was good to see you.
You too.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Have a good night. Okay. We have, do I have to do a motion for this on the floor? Do I have to do a motion on the floor to accept his resignation?
Yeah, that would be a good.
Good, okay. Sadly, I have to have a motion on the floor. One of our constables, it has to resign from his position here for helping us as court officer, and, we think the world of our court officers. They're really wonderful. So I'd like a motion on the floor to accept his resignation dated December 12th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I also am very upset that I need another motion on the floor for the resignation of our account assistant, who actually is going on to a very, very nice position. So I'd like a motion on the floor to accept her resignation dated September 13th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Old business.
Oop, we have to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say second? I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just really quick, do you need permission to advertise for any of these positions while we're here tonight so we can get moving on it?
Yeah, we probably should. This one, we probably don't need one for the work constable. We had a couple of them.
Okay, so I'll make them.
Couple on file for them, but for the accountant assistant, yes.
So I'll make a motion to allow the town clerk to advertise for the position of account clerk.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Did you? Old business discussion. I guess I'll make a motion to, no, I don't have to. This is just for you guys, right?
Yep.
Okay. Dan?
So do we want to bring this up on the screen, or
It's up
You
to you.
can,
Do you
sure.
have the thing?
we might as well? I don't have the thing. I mean, does everybody have handouts? There's not that many people here.
There are, was this part of the handouts, Mary Beth? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we used a lot of trees.
So there, it's in the back if anybody wants to follow along with it. It's for the dog law. And then the other one is for the short-term rental law. I didn't know I had to do that with that.
So the order of this is kind of weird because everybody left. So I don't really know what the point of this is. No offense, everybody. I'm glad you guys stayed, but like the order of this, I don't know how this works. But like,
That's why I was trying to tell them that we're
the
going to
whole point of
discuss
this was to, so, okay. No offense. I'll talk to you guys, but okay. It's called My Thoughts on the Dog Log. My thoughts aren't important. They just literally are my thoughts. I just wanted to be clear that I'm not speaking for anybody else except for myself. But as I left there, because of how good some of you who are here, still here, did, and a lot of the emails and comments we've received, it's made me personally do a whole lot of thinking. So when I have to do that, I just start writing things out to put everything on paper and try to sort this out. So that's kind of what this is. So the way I view this is that, and I think my job is to come into this thing, and I can tell you, like I said last time, this is not something I ran for. I did not run to be head dog catcher of Pleasant Valley. So I'd like us to find some sort of a compromise here so we can get back to a lot of the projects that people want us working on. But I view this as, we have to sit here, and when people speak up, we have to listen, because it seems that we've kind of struck a nerve here. So the way I view this is a story of, there's three things here, right? There's three paths, and there's three groups that I feel like we have to consider. There might be more, but when I was thinking about this in terms of what I had been told, the paths are do nothing, which is not going to be an option that we're going to be able to pursue. Enact the proposed law as everybody has seen and that everybody reacted to, or modify it. And the three groups to consider are the non-compliant dog owners, the compliant dog owners, and then soccer families, parents, users of the field, all that good stuff. So I'm going to try to go through this quick. I'm not going to read this whole slide, but essentially I tried to lay out well, what are our choices here? So what happens if we do nothing and just go back to what we've been doing? So just as a reminder to everybody, this isn't a new law we wrote. We've just had to enforce it. So if we don't do anything, and this is kind of repeating history for the last, I don't know how many years, you'll have non-compliant dog owners will continue to ignore the signs. Their dogs will run loose and they'll leave feces on the field. I'm using that word because I'm trying to remove the cuteness of this whole thing. This isn't about cutesy dog poop, right? This is gross. It's feces. It's disgusting. It needs to be cleaned up. It's a health issue. So the soccer field will be used in the spring of 2025. Mark my word, that will be a soccer field. It hasn't been for the last couple of years, but it absolutely is going to be used, and this is going to lead to complaints. The paths at Bauer, I think I raised that, but learning more about that, that's not the be-all, end-all, because when I first thought, I was like, all right, we'll just use the paths and we'll be fine. That's not our property. A lot of that's not our property, so that's not the solution that I thought it would be. That might help, but that's not the solution. We know this is unsafe, it's unsanitary. There's a major issue here in terms of the precipice of the risk that this town is sitting on in terms of dog fights, in terms of a kid getting bit, and then just the grossness of, I'm not going to equate someone stepping in dog mess and a kid getting bit in the face as the same level, but it's still gross. And it's something that I promise you this board will hear about. So if we don't do anything, the impact on these three groups that I'm talking about is non-compliant owners. They'll be happy because they'll learn that if you don't follow the rules, there's no consequences. Compliant dog owners, they're happy because they never did anything wrong and won't be punished for the actions of others. And the soccer parents are going to be ticked off. So I think we've learned at this point that, and from all the bad acts that I mentioned last time that I won't reiterate, because thank you, you were all here last week. I don't need to repeat the same dad jokes. You were already here. But I don't think this is a viable option. So the second one is, what if we enact the proposed law? So I was trying to look at just basic math here of just percentages. So we know that some people are still going to ignore the law and they're going to continue to run their dogs loose and leave feces on the field. So fines must be levied and they must be severe to ensure compliance. It's got to be painful if you break this rule, otherwise you'll keep doing it, and it has to be enforced. So going back to the same review, the impact on these three groups, the non-compliant dog owners, they'll be unhappy and they'll be forced to comply or be fined or arrested. I hope not, but fined and change their action. Compliant dog owners will be unhappy and punished for the bad acts of others. We've heard from a lot of them, for a lot of good perspectives of why this really hurts them. And then until we have 100% compliance, which we've already said at the top, I think everybody admits we're not going to have compliance because of how people have treated us so far. So the field's going to be used by soccer, and parents are going to complain. So what that means is that until the new law actually starts to work, if it does, 3 of 3 groups will be unhappy. All three are going to be angry at us. Non-compliant, compliant, and the soccer people. Once enforcement works, yes, the soccer parents will be happy. So now we'll have 33% of the groups happy. The good result there is that if that actually works, we've avoided dog fights, we've avoided a kid getting bit in the face, and we've avoided people stepping in dog feces. Okay, that's the law, that's as written, that's what we could do now. But I started thinking, what if we modify this a little bit and listen a little bit more to the public? So suggested changes would be, change 1, allow dogs in the park, conditional on following the new rules with a 90-day provisional approval. The town reserves the right after 90 days to revert back to the original proposed law and ban all dogs in the park, period. But this is kind of going on the optimistic path. The change number 2 is add a 6-foot maximum leash requirement plus heavy fines. I think the fines should go back to the way they were before, which were pretty steep. All dogs must be on a leash at all times, period. Number 3, add feces cleanup language plus heavy fines. All feces must be cleaned up, reinstall cleanup stations and signage, make it easy to follow the law. Don't just have one, have a bunch of different stations with bags, with trash cans. Make it easy for people to clean up. And then specify where dogs are not allowed plus heavy fines. Not allowed on the playground, they're not allowed on the athletic fields, everywhere else is fine on a leash. And these are just my ideas. But this is where I was thinking how we can kind of serve both groups. This is an additional option, and I don't know if people would like this, but I was thinking you could add a caveat where, you know, this rule is in effect, and this is probably going to complicate it, but it's in effect during soccer season, spring and summer and fall. But in the winter, nobody uses that field, so the dog people, so to speak, could use the field as long as they're on a leash and they clean up. But essentially, in that regard, you're kind of giving the park back to the dog people for part of the year, and then, you know, I'm wondering if we could get an area where people work together and realize, all right, it's not my season anymore, I'm going to stay off the field. And not for nothing, it's free fertilizer. So when, like, kind of comparing these, all this is I did this, and I was going to mark red for something where I feel like the law got worse, but yellow is no change to the existing law, and green is what I view as an improvement. So comparing the two, we know that some are still, they're not going to listen to the rule. They're not going to follow us. They're not going to pay attention. They're going to do what they do. We've already seen that. So there's no change to that. We're not helping that or hurting that. Fines must be levied. No change to that. Revert back to higher fine amounts from prior law. The penalty must be severe. I think that's an improvement. You have to make people want to follow this rule because it's serious. How would we do that? So we issue a crystal clear 30-day warning and post it all over the park, website, signs, etc. There's a mandatory 6-foot leash law going into effect in 30 days. All dogs must be on a 6-foot max leash at all times. You got to clean up. You can't be on the fields, and failure to comply with this will be fines and you know, arrest, but hopefully not. So until it works, the field would be used by soccer, leading to complaints, right? Because it's the same thing, but that's the same situation we have right now. Once enforcement works, soccer parents are happy. That's no change. Non-compliant dog owners will be unhappy and will be forced to comply or be fined. That's no change. Compliant dog owners will be happy. That's an improvement. So this means once the law goes into effect, 2 of 3 groups are now happy. With the current proposed law, it's 1 of 3. So that's an improvement. Compliant dog owners may personally advocate for respecting the law and/or report violators. That's an improvement. We don't have the bandwidth to have people out there, but I'm pretty sure that there would be people with smartphones out there that would be happy to do our job for us. And then the bottom, you're going to avoid dog fights, you're going to avoid dog bites, and we're avoiding people stepping in stuff, and that's no change either. So, like I said, these were my thoughts, and I do think there might be a path here that we can kind of help everybody.
Thanks, Dan.
I think, can we discuss more as a board, just so we can keep moving forward on this in the short-term rental? Like, I think we need to start
Yeah,
making changes to
yeah.
the laws and bringing them
Absolutely.
back and doing that. So I think if we need to spend time on this now, we should do it. First off, thanks for putting this all together. You made it really easy to follow. Yeah, again, I feel the same sentiment. I never thought I would be in a position of having to even deal with this, but obviously here we are. I know a lot of people obviously have dogs from knocking on doors. Majority of people have dogs. One of the things that was kind of the overlying trend was people were just upset they had to go to other places to walk their dogs. I'm wondering if a path forward might be, and it was talked about a year or so ago, is we've now installed a beautiful new playground back here in Katie Field. Katie Field is center of town. It's walkable from a lot of the highly densely populated areas like apartment complexes where they don't allow people to walk their dogs, so I imagine those people are looking for places to go. Do we potentially, we're installing the basketball court, and do we potentially look at removing the old equipment from the fenced-in area in Katie Field and just add a second entry gate so dogs can't just run in and out? I know other towns have closed their dog parks and whatnot, but I've been all over the country and people seem to run dog parks, and I don't know how they do it, and some places around here can't do it, but I think we should at least consider it. I think it would be fairly inexpensive. Most of the infrastructure is already there. Obviously signage and other stuff and removing the equipment would be things, but that could be a solution with this, because to your point, I think the majority of the people that were upset about the trails at Bauer Park, it seemed like. But to your point, that we don't own the majority of the trails that are at Bauer Park. So I want people to understand, most people don't realize that, but we have an agreement with the landowner to allow people to walk there. So I'm sure we could figure something out, but for the town board to put into a law that people can go take their dogs out on a leash on somebody else's land, that's where we're at with that. So I know people are really upset about that. So I think we really need to think of another solution here. I like the 6-foot leash requirement. I like the higher fines. You have to make it painful, because obviously us just going out nicely and asking people to not run their dog loose anymore doesn't work. I also had just the big thing that I can't get over, and I brought it up last time, was how do we enforce any of this? And that's, I just don't see, we can make all the laws in the world to tell, are we planning on investing money in somebody going out there making sure people are using 6-foot leashes? Are we making sure people are, out there not running their dogs or walking their dogs on the fields? It's just, it's funny because I go to these other towns and there's no issue with this. At least when I'm there, you have a couple hundred people and there's no dogs anywhere in a very nice park that I would love to walk a dog in. It seems like other towns, they just all came together and realized they, I don't know. But that's my biggest thing is enforcement. How do we enforce this? And is there an opportunity to, instead of just, would it be easier to just say no dogs in the parks, but we are going to address the concern of having a place besides driving out of town to where you could bring your dog, socialize it by, with other dog owners, with other dogs, and kind of separate it from any kids or anybody else getting injured potentially. That's my feeling. I think we do have to make a change. I just don't know the path forward to that.
I definitely want to say with the 6-foot leash, for some reason, people have a hard time understanding this. That also means no retractable leash. The retractable leashes get dogs in trouble, including my husband. So I would love to see that written in there with the 6-foot, no retractable leashes. We definitely need the leash law. Up until about 2 minutes ago, I thought I was the odd man out. I proposed this with Dan back when we were in the beginning stages of Katie. I would like to see a small dog park. Nothing big, nothing crazy. Like Michael had said, Eastdale has them. There are other places who have dog parks and they manage them somehow. So there has to be a way. Yes, we have seen one get into trouble and they got rid of it, but there has to be a way that it gets managed. How do we enforce it? We'll have to figure that out. But there also should be, some way where we can say, okay, because then you're going to get the people who are going to come in and say, dog parks carry diseases. Are the dogs vaccinated? Are the dogs licensed? That's where we do have Mary Beth's office to say, okay, well, there's dogs back there. At some point, somebody would have to go back there and check. I don't recognize you as your dog licensed. Can I see proof of license? Can I see proof of rabies? We have to enforce it, but at the same time, I'm a dog owner, and I'm against dogs running off the leash because I always had a little dog. I now have a big dog. I have a puppy, very large one. last thing I want is somebody's dog charging at my 13-week-old puppy. So we definitely needed leash law, but I quickly realized now I have a very high energy puppy where I can't take her in my own town. Like I said, I had proposed in the beginning stages when we were doing the basketball courts for Katie that I would really love to see a dog park. But again, we need to figure out how to manage it. Dan and I were discussing, you know, the thoughts on the dog issue. I had proposed a 3-strike system. First time verbal, second time fines, third time that's it, you're done. You're not allowed in the park anymore. Again, we have an enforcement issue. How do we enforce it? We have cameras. We have people doing this on purpose now. I feel people have done it on purpose. But we have to figure out a way to make it stop, because no matter what, at the end of the day, if we pass this law, they're still going to do it. So hefty fines do have to be implemented. We just have to figure out how to do it.
Can I just chime in for a
Can I get
sec?
that?
I just want to point out that in the law, we don't have to exactly decide where the dogs would be allowed or not allowed. We could just amend the law to make either a blanket prohibition on dogs in the park, except for areas that are designated to have dogs allowed either on a leash, or if there was a dog park, perhaps not on a leash, and then give the town board the authority to decide that at any point without having to go through a local law process and post it appropriately. So, you know, right now we need to focus on what needs to be actually in the law. So one way to do it would be to say no dogs except, or we could say that I'd rather have the blanket be no dogs and then decide where they are allowed rather than the other way around. I think that makes more sense. But we also do need to decide about fines. I had a question. I think maybe Councilman Deegan, you mentioned the previous fines. Were there some other fines in the past that I'm not aware of?
It was, I can look it up, it'll take me a second. It was
Okay.
on the prior law.
What do you mean the prior law? Because most of this law is just the same law that we have right now, and the only sections that changed are in red. I don't believe we changed the fines.
I thought the numbers were smaller than what I had seen. I can find it, it'll take me a second.
Well, it doesn't matter. We can change them. I just wanted to know if I was missing some previous numbers.
I think, so here's, yeah, so 1995, it was
Oh, okay.
not more than 250 for the first offense, not more than 500 for the
Okay.
second, and not more than 750 for the third.
So that
So I
must have been
wasn't,
changed
I wasn't
after that.
original, I just copied
Got it.
theirs.
Thanks.
Well,
So I think we have a, you want, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So personally, I don't care if they're in, they can be wherever they want in Bauer, just not a soccer field, as long as they're on a leash and they clean up after it. I don't care where they are anywhere. They can walk wherever they want in the town as long as they clean up and they're on a leash. And I think that's what we
See,
need
I
to
think
figure
that's where I
out.
disagree, is if I have my daughter who's terrified of dogs, and I bring her to the field to run around, or I bring her to the park, I think there needs to be a separation between somebody having their dog at the playground, and even if they're on a leash, my daughter runs by them, they're gonna jump on my daughter, and that's why she's terrified of dogs, is because she's had that interaction before, or the dog's barking because they don't know who my daughter is. So I cannot be in favor of something that allows dogs, even on a leash, to be anywhere where there's gonna be kids. I'm fine with walking trails if we own them, I'm fine with open space, I'm fine with a dog park. But I really think we need to take it's going to be way too complicated. We're talking about enforcement. How are you gonna enforce these, we might as well just not have anything, because you're just gonna allow dogs everywhere.
So
I
what
get
would
it,
that-
dogs can be wherever. I just think we need to take steps to protect kids who,
Yeah.
those areas are designed for kids.
What
They're
would
not designed
victory
for
look like
dogs.
to you? Would it be no, like, so let's just be Bauer specific. So dogs not allowed on the soccer field, period, not allowed on the playground, period.
I don't think they should be allowed anywhere other than, honestly, if we can do something down here at Katy, which is something that myself and the other rec director had spoken about when we started to even think about getting new recreation equipment. We thought, oh, this is all fenced in. But then a couple people from other towns talked me out of it because they said it was a nightmare.
A dog park?
Well, I'm seeing a nightmare right now, okay? I see dogs, we have huge signs that say no dogs allowed. Everybody is going against that and bringing it. So I haven't seen any change in anything at Bauer at all. And like you said, we only go in a little bit and then it turns into somebody else's property, which we really can't take a chance. So there's several places for people to walk their dogs. And you would think I was asking everybody to go to Wisconsin to walk him, okay? That's not the case. First of all, 2 huge apartment complexes right here in Pleasant Valley have their own dog parks. And second of all, they can go to Peach Hill, Baird Park, by the way, is in Pleasant Valley, so it's not Wisconsin, and Greenway, which is on Slate Place, which is just past the town line practically. So if we did that with Katy, I would be fine with it, but the rest of it, I am really not comfortable with. We have people who are blatantly going there after they've been told many times to not do it, and they are just blatantly going there anyway. So I would be comfortable with back to what the original idea was to use the old, playground area, yes.
So to your original question, Councilman Deegan, is Bauer Park. I think one of the issues we face is that the majority of our parks currently are designed for either kids to be playing sporting events or playgrounds or whatnot. We don't really have, so for example, at Bauer Park, in all reality, if you have the entry road and the exit road, and you have across the bridge on the parking, on the trail, you don't really have a bunch of space that the town owns that's not a playground or the athletic field. And then you take Helen Aldridge, you might have some area past the playground itself, but again, they have to walk through the playground or the athletic field to get there. And then you have Katy Field. I mean, it's all a playground now and athletic field. So I think that's adding to the difficulty of this law, is that you're gonna, brand new playgrounds, we put this beautiful rubber stuff down to protect the kids. One dog does their stuff on that, I mean, you're gonna have feces ground into that. Even if somebody goes onto the soccer field or the baseball field and they pick it up with a baggie, you're still gonna have stuff on the field. So I get it. I feel bad for dog owners, but at the same time, like, I don't know what the answer is, but I think a dog park or some dedicated area specific for dogs is the easiest, and it's a compromise with everybody. But the idea of allowing dogs where they're designed for kids, not dogs, I don't know how you can do both.
But we have 2 issues here, though. We have to figure out, do we want to ban them completely, but we also have to deal with fines and how we're going to enforce it, because we obviously have people who blatantly keep going against our rules and our wishes.
Yeah, of course.
So
yeah.
that, we have 2 issues. Which way do we go? And then how do we enforce it? Because they're still going to do it.
But we see them on camera. I mean, we see them on camera. It's
Yeah.
we already know
Blatantly right
that.
on
We have their
camera.
license. I mean,
Well, so I think that's to bring it back around, of the idea of not taking a stance of they're not allowed somewhere. You can't use the cameras anymore to enforce anything if let's say we got the landowner to open up the trails at Bauer Park. You know how difficult it's going to be with cameras to try to sit there and distinguish who's going only onto the trails, who's going to the soccer field, who's passing through and hang out in the playground. There's so many things we can't keep up with that, like, I think it needs to be an easy thing. And I think the idea of switching time frames and people are allowed here at this time of year, nobody's going to follow it. Yeah, so I think the easiest thing is distinguished areas for dogs and set areas for kids and adults to, and honestly, this isn't a new idea. The state does it. Go to James Baird Park. You cannot go past the parking lot anywhere towards the pickleball courts, anywhere towards the playground, anywhere towards the golf course. They don't allow it.
How do they enforce it?
But they have people that work at the park all day long. We could hire people, and that gets back to the enforcement of, it's a totally different thing. Same thing with the county parks. You take somewhere like Bowdoin Park, they have people that are in those parks. We don't have the resources for that, and I think that's why a lot of towns have just taken the stance of, we're just not gonna allow dogs in our parks. I don't know if that's the right answer, but we have to ask ourselves, how are we gonna enforce this if we don't do that?
I hear what you guys are saying. I do think with Bauer, like there's places for dogs on the wood lines, right? It's not, you know what I mean? Like people could walk dogs around, like on the wooded area around the whole area, right? Like where there's a walking path. Right?
No, around the field? We just expanded the fields. That's why
The soccer field, it doesn't go to the edge of the woods, does it? Does
we
it
just
literally go?
expanded
Yeah,
the
pretty
edge of it.
much, yeah.
So that trail that everybody said they're upset they can't walk on is part of the field. That, because of the way that the new rec director has redesigned that space, this spring, hopefully, you'll have a bunch of soccer fields there. This isn't easy, I don't know what the solution is, but.
I think we just make the dog law, like Emily said, put the fees in there, the 6 foot lead, in general for anywhere. I mean, this dog law isn't just for us to do things for the parks. I mean, it's for everything in the town. I mean, there are dog issues all over the place. You ask our dog warden that works part-time for us. It's all over. So we can't just limit our law to our own parks, because then we're ignoring everything else that's going on. There should be a leash law in general, and even in neighborhoods and stuff, they have to keep them in their own yard. I mean, we have to deal with everything in this law. So, and then I can make a couple of phone calls and get some ideas of what it would cost us to expand that fencing out here, because you have to have the area for the dog with a gate. Then you have to have another little area where they can bring the dog into and lock it to make sure that they're going to be getting in and out without losing the dog off of the leash.
And you just have to be sure that they have a dog license and that their rabies are up to date
Good luck.
also.
How we do that?
Good luck.
Because we have a lot of dogs in Pleasant Valley that are not registered. People have not registered them, and they wind up in court.
Yeah.
So that is a big issue.
And honestly, I'm as afraid of dogs as Michael's daughter. And if you need to ask anybody, you ask Mary Beth, who I threw in front of every dog while we were campaigning, literally. So it really is. It can be very scary for some people.
What if we moved the signs and we allowed people to walk right to the parking lot? They can walk on that driveway and that's it.
I would be fine with that, but again, how do you get back to the enforcement of?
It's on camera. You can't go past this point with a dog. At least that's giving people somewhere to walk their dog.
But we would be giving them this, and then there's a lot of other places they can go to Baird,
Sure,
which
but
is
there's also people that are 90
literally
years old that
6
live in
minutes
Bauer.
from
They're
here.
across the street. They need to walk over there, you know? There's people that can't go other places.
Well, the people from across the street have their own dog park.
They don't use it.
Well,
People,
I
dogs,
hate to say
I don't
it,
have a
but
dog,
that's
but I
not
heard
my
dog
problem.
owners don't like dog parks.
Pardon?
I heard most dog owners don't like dog parks. I don't know. Maybe the people that
Well,
speak
then,
can speak to that.
they have the dog park at, dog areas at Baird. Don't they walk through the woods there? Yeah, there's a section. It's not a dog park. You can go and walk your dog there.
I mean,
I
that's
can
a
find
long
out.
Certain
driveway with a
section.
long stretch of grass.
My
That's
friend
not
is the
like
dog,
But-
is the manager over
And
there.
Not a
by the
road.
way, Greenway has a beautiful section along the creek to be able to walk on. I walked it,
So
just to
would it
go out
work,
and see it.
Would it work to do the blanket prohibition and allow them in designated places, and then you guys can decide if you want that to be a designated place, or?
I mean, if we move the sign to like the new parking lot, but they have that entrance, they're not in the park, it lets them walk. I mean, at least we're not putting up an iron curtain.
So most of the people that came and spoke at the last were not from the apartment complex. They were from homeowners in other
Surrounding.
parts of the town. So if you did that, they would have to drive into the parking lot, and they would have to leave the parking lot to walk the roadway. I'm not against it. I'm just thinking of the negatives of you're now going to have people walking. It just seems like most of the people were upset about the trails at Bower Park. And there's not this, all the people that were here were not the people, a 90-year-old walking across the road. I've never seen a 90-year-old on the camera, but these are people, I mean, the biggest person that's not following it has 15 acres in our town. So, I mean,
But I kind of look at the coin on both sides. I sit here to listen to the people that speak, but I'm also thinking about the people that don't have the time to come here and speak. That's also our job
That
to
are
advocate for those who
out
don't
there.
speak. So, like, to me, I mean, I don't know. But I think maybe we should just do a vote.
well, I think the thing is we have to get the law to the point of, like, what are we voting on? There's nothing, I think we all agree that the law in the current form is not the correct one. I think we need to figure out the language to where it's easily able to be changed by whatever board to change it. Like, say you want to do the road, it could be simply a resolution that allows that area to be used as a dog, for dogs. I think you need to have something in there that allows you to be able to change that. But you can't put that in the law because that might change down the line. And the law's kind of written that way, but we should change it a little bit. It does say
Make
dog
clearer.
park. Yeah, it needs to be made clear and
it just
easier.
needs to be
But it says you have to label it a dog park, but maybe the language is changed to say whatever areas the town board deems allowable, and you change the signs to that. I think that we can critique that.
It could just be no dogs. If you all agree to do that, it could be no dogs past this point, and then that kind of goes with everything with what you were saying. You're deeming that next spot as a place where they can't bring dogs, right?
Well, I think what I'm proposing is make the default that they're not allowed in the parks, except for the areas where they are allowed.
I haven't heard anybody say they're allowed in Bower, except me.
Well, that
No,
would be, but that wouldn't be, it wouldn't be in the law. It would be putting into the law an option for the town board to vote on places where they are allowed. And then this board can do that, next year's board can do that, you know.
Okay. I think it seems like the current dog, I mean, I think we're in alignment that we all want higher fines. Besides that, that's the current dog law with higher fines,
No,
right?
you would change the language to make it easier for the town board to set areas that are allowing dogs. The current dog law that we're proposing does not make it easy for the town board to set areas that would allow dogs. So we would change the language to make it very simple for us to say, yeah, the roads at Bower Park,
Yep.
you can have dogs in. The current law doesn't allow
Do
that.
you want to do that now?
Well,
you wanna do that now?
I think we should have Emily draft up a new
Yeah.
changes to that.
If you want, if this is where the direction we're going, we'll have a new draft so that people
Yeah,
can comment on it.
I think
in
Dan and I need
January.
to see it
Yeah.
written up.
Can you add a
Absolutely.
6-foot whatever leash section
Yeah,
as well?
so in other words, where it says that dogs are not allowed to be off leash, it would say off of a leash, a 6-foot leash? In other words, dog,
has to have no retractable.
okay.
I mean, they've never been allowed to be off leash. We're just making it blatantly specific, right? That was the run of
Yeah.
that old wording.
Yeah, we haven't changed that.
No, they've never been allowed to be off leash. Now we're saying they have to be on a leash. Not, you can't be off, you have to be on.
You have to be on, and it can't be, it has to
Yeah.
be 6
Semantics.
feet or less.
Yeah. But a lot of this comes from what we've been watching since we started Bower Park. That's the problem. I happen to know that there are people out there that have gone to Bower Park and wouldn't let their kids out of the car because somebody was running their dog through the field. Like, we can't have that. We can't have that happening. And they're blatantly disregarding the sign that says no dogs allowed. By the way, there's probably like 4 of them.
100%.
And they know they're on camera. So, you know,
I just wish those people had come and spoke, which they probably don't have time either because they got little kids, but.
What do you mean, the people that run their dogs?
No, the people that are afraid, I mean, hearing parents, they're afraid to take their kids out of the car, that's a problem. But I just wish they had come and.
Well, I mean, we've gotten emails from somebody who had their dog
right.
attacked on their own land. Somebody was had their dog at Howell Park, and it ran onto their land and attacked their dog. Yeah, I mean,
but we did get an email from someone who they didn't want to let their kids out of the car. So I'm sure that's only one person that actually took the time to write. Because as you know, we only see things on Facebook. They don't want to write to us for some reason. And we would rather that you all write to us. And I'm looking at the camera. It look like I'm looking at you, but I'm really not. So I just, you know, it gets annoying. You know, so they really need to write to us. Yes, you're right. But that goes for everything that we do, right? We're willing to speak to people about things. But I just think that we need to be very careful with this.
I just want compliments. I don't want feedback or complaints, I just want compliments.
You just, oh, okay.
That hasn't happened yet.
Dan only wants compliments.
Well, I tried to be compelling tonight, I don't think I was very compelling, so back to the drawing board.
no, you did though. No, I mean, you got compromised.
Yeah.
We're changing the language to allow us to then open up areas of the park. I
Listen,
think the problem is that I don't, me personally, no.
We're not on the same page on that.
No, I don't.
You did a good job.
I think the problem though is that we're not at the point to sit down and put in a law specifics of these areas because we haven't sat down and talked about that. I think that's why if you redo the language and then we have that conversation, even next meeting, and we can all do it all at once. You enact the law and then you set what areas and we make the changes. Because then also, if we don't put it in the law, the specifics, is we can open up more areas. Let's say it goes really well on the road. Let's say that the landowner says we can now have people on there with dogs. You can simply just, by a vote, change that. Where if it's set in the law the way it is now, you can't do that. So I think you've made a lot of changes.
I think this goes a two-way street. I think if we, all right, so we have a little bit of progress here. I think we need to recruit the public into this as they're part of this solution. Like we need, be a part of this.
Do you know how many people I told to come here tonight? Right?
Just the loyal family. The loyalists.
Okay. Yes, I was just going to say, go ahead, Dan. Dan's going to do a discussion about the short-term rentals.
Yeah, no, I'm not. So there's a lot of fine print in here. Everybody can read this when they go home, and everybody can read this at night. Specific to one topic and one topic only, I promise I'm only going to go 2 minutes here. Same thing. I mean, it's democracy in action. People are making their voices heard, and we're listening, and people are compelling, and they're not being nasty, and they're making good cases, and they're speaking from the heart, and they're making it hard. So congrats to everybody that done it, because you made our jobs difficult. I didn't like sitting here. I didn't really even have opinions about short-term rentals, but I didn't know much about them. But my number one concern with this, it remains the same, it hasn't changed, is the impact on renters. We have a housing crisis in this country, in this county, in this town. Healthy housing stock is allegedly 5%. You can read so many different stats, you can go nuts on this, but allegedly it's somewhere between 3 to 5% vacancy is considered healthy stock. We're at 0. I mean, we're at 0.2, we were at 0.8 a year ago, now we're at 0. So we have a problem. So anything that could potentially do something to impact rent prices for people that are already struggling is my number one concern. So I went digging, and I found information, and I think the biggest takeaway I have from this, the first page, I guess I'll go to the first page. All right, now I'm all screwed up, Mike. Because they can't see this at home if I don't do this right. Okay. So the first link is Dutchess County did this, and then the second one is a report that was put out that it seems to be one that gets leaned on pretty heavily. It's from 2019, it's a little old. But no matter what you read out there, what I found is I didn't find anything that was super compelling one way or the other. This is so new, it's such a moving target that anybody who acts like they're an expert on this, they're lying or they're making it up, or both, because it's complicated. But these were the two places I went. I'm not saying this is the be-all, end-all. I'm sure there's other studies. I got an email prior to this meeting that's a 70-page document that says a lot of points to the contrary that I'm going to spend a lot of time reading on because I didn't see that one prior, and I'm going to look at it. I'm not going to go through this. The public opinion is there's negative thoughts on short-term rentals, and again, this isn't about anything else. This is just about impact on housing and on rent costs. You have negatives out there that people think it goes up. You have positives that it brings in tourist income. It brings in dollars for businesses. It brings in income for people that need to rent those homes out. We know that. The one thing I'll say on the side is that the one unique thing I think to this is because the nature of short-term rentals, and you have owners and they want to get good clicks and good reviews with my favorite social media. They're going to, typically they maintain the property pretty nicely in order to get good reviews, and a lot of times, well, now I'm speaking with things I don't know. It seems like there are situations where someone who's doing that might actually maintain their house better than someone who lived there full time. That's just kind of fair. I see some houses that I drive by that are a little rough, and there's nothing their neighbors can do about it, but I think that is one part of this where people have a motivation to maintain it. I'm just going to jump to kind of like the recap of all this. So essentially you have, my view is there's two different types of short-term rentals. There's unhosted short-term rentals and there's hosted short-term rentals. And they do some different things. But the biggest impact that I saw is that where you have higher unhosted short-term rentals, you have a higher increase on rent and you have higher home prices. What I found funny about that is when you hear the complaint that neighborhoods say that if you bring one of these into our house, our housing prices are going to go down. This might, what I saw is that actually isn't true. And I don't view that as a positive. I view that as a negative because I'm looking at this from the perspective of rent costs. And people can read this, they can look at the articles, they can find maybe what I missed, but this was the takeaway is that where there's more unhosted STRs, there's higher rent and higher home prices. Where there's less unhosted STRs, meaning the alternative is hosted, the rent and home prices do also go up, but they go up at a lower percentage. So this is just in English. Hosted STRs have a lower impact on rental costs and housing prices than unhosted STRs. And there's a lot of nuance to this. I mean, a bunch of the stuff in the appendix, I mean, I was looking at, the first report, and all these slides were from the report that was linked from Dutchess County, because if Dutchess County was stamping that, I would figure I'd go down there. And then I went into the weeds, and I was looking at reports from Seattle, I was looking at stuff from Toronto, I was looking at stuff from Denver, I was looking at stuff from Europe. It's all over the place. But there was a consistency in the sense that short-term rentals in general increase rent, period. There might be areas out there where they don't, but that seems to be the unanimous thought. The short-term rentals in general raise rent. So there was some thought of like, how do you regulate these? And it's complicated, and you get into a really gray area of like, well, how do you know someone's home? How do you know they're not? Are you gonna have the Gestapo kicking their door down to see if like the host, like this, you go down to some crazy stuff here where we gotta think about a lot of this, because there's slippery slope on this stuff. But this is stuff that I've seen, and I'm not necessarily saying these are a suggestion, but this is what other places have done. They limit short-term ownership to one primary residence and one non-primary, because that kind of blocks out these investors that are buying up all the houses and driving our rents up just so they can get rich. You're kind of blocking against those people. That I would say that I think everyone in Pleasant Valley is against. We don't need like a BlackRock to come in here and buy up half a neighborhood so they can all get rich and live in Aruba. So that's one thing that people have done. Another one that worked in Denver was they required hosted owners to sign a sworn affidavit that they are compliant, subject to a $1,000 fine if violated. After they did that, and they said, you just have to sign this that's saying you're going to follow the laws, they had like a 50% drop in applications because the people knew they were lying or they were making something up and they didn't want to sign it. That's regulation without even having to do any. But I think you do put the onus and the responsibility on the hosted owner instead of vice versa. You can limit unhosted rentals to a certain amount of days per year. There were some cities and places that limited a certain amount of days per year. And then the other area that I looked at was that I personally do view something like a one-bedroom apartment above a garage. I view that differently than a whole house, whether it's hosted or unhosted. I think that's a little bit of a different situation. And some of the zoning that we had, I think is more applicable to a whole house, especially if it's unhosted, than if it's just one bedroom. But this was the research, and I'm done. But I just wanted to kind of let people know, you can read through this. I'll read through what I've been sent. The comments have been great, but there was a bunch of different stuff. Granicus had one. There was one. Harvard Business Review had one. I think this one was half and half. I think this was pro STRs, but had some negatives. The Altus Group had a big report. And then this one, Desjardins, up in Canada. This was one that gets leaned on quite a bit in terms of like the stats that it came up with. But really, in like final, this slide, you can't see it, but essentially it kind of bullet points a bunch of different reports and places, and essentially it raises rent. That was kind of the takeaway, that, you know, one way or the other in some form or fashion, rent is going to go up. It could be minuscule. The question that I would have is, on a market that's this size, when you have this few, like, we're not talking a crazy takeover, and I think the goal is to regulate this so we can be in control. But if you have a couple, does that actually impact rent to the level that you see in a place like Toronto? I don't know. But I do think the one thing I know from all this is that we don't necessarily know all this, and I think we need to be flexible and be able to change it as we go, because I personally am sure I'm going to get certain things about this wrong. So I just wanted to do the work and spend some time on this topic itself, and hopefully I didn't make everyone in this room dumber. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Deegan. I put on everybody's desk an email that I had to State Senator Hinchy's office. I just found out that she sponsored a bill that passed the Senate and the State Assembly. It's sitting on the governor's desk, and as of the 12th, and from the email you'll see she could either sign it or veto it or make some changes which could carry it over to the 2025 legislative session. The proposed bill is attached to that. So if you read through that, they're actually the state, which I believe it's a big overstep that the state is trying to take a one-size-fits-all approach to this. I think it should be left up to the municipalities and the cities. But it looks like they're going to take, if this passes, we might not even have a say. So just keep that in the back of your mind, that I personally think at this point we should probably wait until we see what happens. They're saying that they're expecting a decision to be made by mid-next week. So before Christmas, hopefully, we will know if the governor signs it or vetoes it or suggests changes. But until then, I mean, if you look at the bill, it kind of insinuates that if we don't have a law in place, that I don't know if we can we put a law in place with it?
So I'll read it more closely. My understanding was that it was more of a registry, mainly so they could make sure they're collecting taxes, and not so much like a regulation of where they can be located and things like that. But I'll read it more carefully.
Yeah, if you could look at that. And then we heard good comments on all of this at the last meeting, but I just wanted to talk about a couple things. Councilman Deegan already knows where I stand on hosted versus unhosted, so I'm not going to bore him with that. But the argument for increasing rent, I agree with you. In a lot of the research that you looked at, places like Toronto, Denver, the common thread there is their cities. Most of those places have majority of rentals compared to a town like Pleasant Valley where you're saying we don't have any rentals. So I don't know if we can really make the argument that If you look at the documentation that was sent out, the current Airbnbs that we have in the town, and then the other document where it says the apartments in our town, none of the addresses are the same. So it seems like in our town at least, apartments aren't being rented out, which would, in essence, I would hope would not drive up the rent costs because somebody's not gobbling up all the rentals. I do believe rezoning areas to allow more luxury apartments and stuff like that. I think talking to people in different communities within our town, they correlated when those things are built, everybody kind of goes up. And I think that really causes more of that inflation in the rent. But also an increase in home value. The way I look at this is my job is to represent the people that live here. I get it. There's a housing crisis. I don't think the state should be the ones telling us that how, they tried to propose the forced zoning to build more housing units in each town, and that got shot down. But I really think that you have people that rent, which I don't believe the short-term rentals, the way they're configured now and the way we're thinking about passing a law, we could contain that there wouldn't be a ton of apartments being taken up by it. But the homes, if a home value is going up, I don't see that as a bad thing. I mean, if home values are going down, we probably have a problem. So I'm okay with home values going up. I know it might not be convenient for people who want to buy a house here and move here, but honestly, I don't look at my job as having to represent the people that don't live here yet. I know that might sound harsh, but and that's all I have. So, I mean, I liked your red line version. I think we should make some changes based off of yours. I don't know if I agree with the hosted versus unhosted. Again, the argument is that I don't know if there's any potential way that the town could actually know hosted versus unhosted. I know other towns have taken that into their law, but again, I'd like to see them actually be able to enforce that. To the point tonight, you had somebody thinking that it was a random family walking through the neighborhood. We deal with this at our house that we use as a short-term rental. The town doesn't know if my family's there or if I'm renting it or my friends are just using it. It's just, there's no way of knowing. So I think, again, you make it as simple as possible, which you've done, but I don't know if I agree with the carve-outs for if it's hosted or non-hosted, because I don't see it realistic.
I think that's why that affidavit was done.
Yeah, but I think you might see a 50% rate of nobody signing it, is they just go and they do it anyway, like the house in Clinton.
No, they pulled them off.
No, I'm saying they didn't get the permit through it might be just they're doing it illegally at that point. People did that up in the town that passed a short-term rental law. I know one of them. They just ignored the law and they're just doing it anyway. And the town's not doing anything because they don't have the manpower to even keep up on it. But I'm all for it, the sign off. I just don't think it's actually going to make a difference.
What's the board think? Do you view short-term rentals, maybe, I don't know if I agree with that either, but or what you just said, but do you view a distinction between whole home, multi-bedroom, and a single bedroom? Like one bed versus 6 bedrooms?
Yeah, absolutely.
You see a difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do I. So I think just by distinction, those tend to be hosted, right?
You don't know that.
I don't know that.
I mean, this is the other thing, I could have a hosted basement in my house and I'm away for 3 months and it's labeled as hosted because it's in my house. There's still nobody there overseeing it, where I could live next door as an unhosted and keep more of an eye on it. It just really, it's a good idea. I just think in reality, when it actually, it sounds good, but I think it's very difficult to actually make a difference one way or the other. It's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, I just think some of the stuff that we were requiring in those cases, but you saw the red line. Like, we can exempt those in case by case based on,
I honestly think that your red line, I think on the things you redlined, I think I would be on your side of they should just be taken out completely for either one. is like, do we really need a floor plan when the house was built at some point and the town probably has a site plan and a floor plan? Things like that. So I think we could even go a further step on that and make it even more streamlined.
I would like to suggest that maybe one or two of you and Pat Lambert and I sit down and go through it. Pat is the zoning administrator. And I mean, it's important to know what the whole board thinks, but I don't think that we can hash the whole thing out as a group here.
And he sent red lines in too. I don't know if you saw this.
Separate from you? Oh.
In that email, I sent my red lines and his red lines.
Oh, I thought it was one okay.
They were very, very specific. I mean, mine went a little deeper than his, but he had very specific nuances that he deals with on a daily basis that I think should be considered.
Yeah, we need to process all the comments that we got. There were some good comments and go through. I guess the big thing would be if the board just has general opinions on what direction we want it to go.
So what do you guys think?
Sorry. This list that I have here, out of the 12 or whatever it is that are on here, I happen to know that right off the bat that 3 of them are hosted, so to speak, because they're houses that were built on their properties. So,
And one of them's a one bedroom, I know. I don't know if,
I'm sorry, what, honey?
one of them's I know one of the 12 or whatever is a one bedroom apartment. I don't know about the others. It's hard to tell on Airbnb.
Yeah, these are very difficult to follow online, too. I don't know. I have a real thing about unhosted, because I think that there are things going on that the owners don't know, and what are they gonna do? Slap the people on the wrist after they give them a $5,000 check? You know, I have a bit of an issue with the unhosted STRs. I'm not against the hosted ones, because somebody would probably be there, or, you know, or in a house close to it right there, but I just think that the partying and the constant in and out with vehicles, and, you know, then those people come there and then they have parties at the house, and then there's 14, 15 other cars at the house, and I just think that that's, to me, that's an issue.
So let me give you an example, and this is what like the dilemma that goes through my head. I have let's say I have a hosted house in town of Pleasant Valley. I did the permitting, and I have a neighbor who doesn't like the fact that they can't identify every single person that walks down my public road. And I host a nice group of people, and we're nice and quiet, and then I throw a graduation party at my house, and they call to turn me into the town because I'm throwing a graduation party. I have 20 people, cars parked in my driveway, like people do at birthday parties. I have a band. Like, that's my dilemma, is how do you distinguish between the two? And I
You
think
distinguish it by not having it there a party there every weekend. That's,
but I could
personally-
I could have a party at my house every weekend.
ooh,
But I'm just saying.
you're a better
is-
man than I am. I
This
can
is
tell
what
you
I'm
that.
saying, though, is that's the dilemma you're gonna be dealing with. In the town where we used to do this, they're having issues with that. So I'm not just bringing it up I want to have something that we can enforce and regulate these, because I do think there's an issue. I just think we have to be really smart about it.
Right.
To where
Oh, I agree.
we can really, look, we have a sign ordinance that was put in 10 years ago, and we're still trying to figure out how to, like, we need to put the thought into this. So I would love that if the board would give 2 of us the okay to sit down with Emily and Pat, and I mean, if you're okay with me and Councilman Deegan, I think we bring 2 different perspectives, and we can come back with an edited thing to the board. What do you think about that?
Yep, that's fine.
I'm okay with it, yeah, because you both are on different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah,
And I know me
right.
and Mary
We
have
can-
this,
Right.
have exactly the same thoughts.
We can come to a middle.
Yep, that's fine.
I think there's another thing too that we need to just call out is, so I've been trying to sit there, I live in a neighborhood too, and this, you hear this from time to time. You hear this from time to time where people talk about their neighborhoods like it's like this castle that they're defending it against hordes of people that are coming in, and we're here to defend it and protect. I mean, I think we just need to be careful about that. In my neighborhood, there was a family that they had a cousin that moved in with them. He didn't look like me, but he was a cousin that just happened to live there. He lived there for a couple of months. Nobody knew him, but that didn't mean he didn't have a right to be there. So I think we got to be very careful about. So if you have an Airbnb in your neighborhood, it's got 6 bedrooms or whatever. I just think we need to be very sure that what people are saying and what they're not saying. If the people are there and they're renting this out for 30 days and they're nice and they're respectful and they're not doing all the, they're not having parties and bachelorette parties and out until midnight and shooting off fireworks, I just hope that it's their presence alone isn't bothering people, because I can tell you, I knocked doors in that neighborhood, Patricia Drive, back in 2018. Nobody knows who I am now, for starters. I'm not that important, but maybe a couple people have seen me online. But 2018, I didn't know the first thing about politics. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about door knocking. Nobody stopped me. Not one person ever stopped me when I was in that neighborhood. I knocked doors about 10 times. During COVID, less people knew me. So you had a dude with a black jacket on, a black hoodie, and a mask walking through Patricia Drive. Not one person, these neighborhood defenders, not one of them stopped me. So ask yourself, who are the people that get stopped and who are the people that don't? And if we're not having that honest conversation, and I've read a couple emails and I had to take a step back and I had to reread it, because there's a lot of theism, there's a lot of them, but they're talking about Airbnb people. Or are they? And only the people at home can answer that question. But if I'm just going to say it again, if someone's renting a house and they're perfectly fine, not breaking any rules, if you still have a problem with them, it's your problem. I had to get that off my chest. Because there's no difference between that and someone who lives there, who owns the house, a cousin that's living, who moved in with them for a little while. And not for nothing, I don't know that person. It's none of your business who they are. You're not supposed to know everybody. I don't know everybody on my street. You also could walk out and say, hey, my name's Dan, nice to meet you. What are you doing here? Right? But that's how you meet people. So, when I hear that stuff, I just want to be careful. That's all. I'm assuming best intent, but just saying it.
Thank you for saying that.
Okay, on to the resolutions. I would like a motion for Town Resolution 1209, amending Resolution 1206, 2024, authorizing a reduced expenditure from the Infrastructure Reserve Fund for road paving.
So moved.
Second.
Hold on.
And I wanted to
Can you explain this?
Yes, I can explain it. Okay, so originally, for the roads, we were going to use $757,709.35 out of our infrastructure account to get the roads done for the town through John Baxter. Well, it ended up that we didn't need to use all of that. So we ended up having to use $584.84 instead. So there was a drastic reduction in it. So we had to redo this 284 agreement and for the expenditure. Do you get that? Jen, do you understand?
Thanks.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'd like a motion for 1210 of 2024, amending the 2024 general fund budget.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'd like a motion for resolution 1211 of 2024, amending the Helen Aldred Park project budget.
So moved.
Second.
Hold on.
Yes.
I have, can somebody explain this to me? Because I haven't heard anything about what's going on there, and we're paying money.
I actually have, what I would really like to do is hold this, honestly.
Okay, I make a motion to table this.
Table, yes, because we can do this on the 30th. Okay?
Second.
Yeah, because I have information for you.
We just-
All in favor?
Aye.
And I would like to make a motion for 12/12 of '24, authorizing payment of abstract 12 of 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I would like a motion for 12/13 of 2024, authorizing payment of abstract 12P of 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. There are no items for special
We have to
consider.
vote.
Oh, all in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
Items for special consideration, we don't have any tonight. And I would like to, a motion to open up for public comment section for new items only, non-agenda items, one time, 3 minutes per person.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hello, Scott Cookingham, Fox Run. Dan Deegan, I like how you're trying to work both ways there with the dogs and people without dogs. One thing I was thinking about is somebody called me there earlier today to say, what about Rettle Park? If we put a committee together where we could actually have the people of Pleasant Valley and make it trails for dogs and actual people, and it has nothing to do with kids out there, soccer fields, everything else. So I just think that was a great idea, and then having the law, you know, and not having a true dog park with fence where they're off, you keep that 6-foot rule, and then you got all the acreage. There is already parking where you can come off of Van Wagner Road there, and you'd be able to do that. I'm just, you know, another avenue since we, you know, years ago, we tried to put the baseball fields up there when I was, you know, my kids were this big, and it still hasn't, nothing's been done, and it'd be something nice that, you know, the Rettles.
Michael and I
Unfortunately,
had this conversation. Pardon? Oh, okay. Go ahead and finish, sorry.
That's all right. No, I just, you know, I just think it's another avenue where, you know, Dan's trying to use, you know, back here at Katy would be, but you have a lot more open area where, you know, I guarantee there'd be, you know, local contractors willing to go in there and just make some quick trails where people could go and, you know, take their dogs on a leash with the new laws and stuff. That's all.
Yeah, we had this discussion. It would probably not take a whole lot to have a trail made through Rettle Park to do that. But again, if that's done, then we need to make sure that we still have everybody abide by whatever leash laws we have and whatnot, and pick everything up and all that. So,
Then you'll get
thank you.
then you'll get the airplane people mad at the dog people. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, oh, please.
Hi, Rebecca O'Halloran Circle. I don't know if this is a moment that I could just throw it out. I just wanted to kind of echo sentiments that Dan was talking about. Preparing to come here tonight, my family and I were talking over dinner, you know, potential like ideas, right, to help, because I think everybody is full of complaints, comments, negatives, either way, but there's no solution. So my 5-year-old, heaven help me if he becomes a politician, he already negotiates bedtime, but he actually had an idea. He goes, what about if you have to show your picture ID? I was like, okay. And my mom echoes forward, who's been a resident for 50 years plus. She's like, you know, you have an identification when you drive. You get in trouble. What happens? After so many times, you get punished, right? You have your fines, you have this, you have that. Take the dog away. If you are non-compliant, that is on you. It's not the responsible dog owners that's doing this. I was one person that actually went to the park recently, wanted to let my little ones out to play. Someone was running their dog. A month prior to that, my kids stepped in a whole bunch. And to that I say, would anybody else like to step in somebody's own species, right? You know, and that also goes for the condoms, used condoms that you find in the park, and the drug paraphernalia that you find. Problem is, there's no accountability, and I think as a town, we either need to be accountable or find a way to meet, and if a dog park's one of them, fantastic, but coming from a 5-year-old to say, why don't you show your ID at the gate? Or maybe have it show ID in front of the camera only when the town hall is open. Maybe that's an idea, but just want to leave that out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just here because I enjoy myself talking. I'd like to congratulate the board here tonight. I come to every meeting, as you probably don't like, but you have had an open discussion for the first time that have listened to in quite a while, and I appreciate that.
Anyone else? Not
So-
hearing- Oh,
So we knew,
ahead.
it wasn't part of the hearing, but they were allowed to speak to my comments if they wanted to, right? It's not part of the hearing? Didn't we?
It's up to the supervisor.
I would like to allow whoever wanted to speak.
It's not part of the hearing, though, right?
Yeah,
Just to be
it's
clear.
not
It's
part
just
of
if
the,
you-
it's not part of the hearing.
If you want to, you're here. It's silliness if we don't let them. All your notes are out
Are
of
you-
order now. Your cheat sheets. You got to do it from the hip.
I apologize for being late and missing the actual opportunity to speak, but thank you for giving me a moment. But yeah, I was really just hoping to kind of highlight a couple of things from my letter that I.
Could you state your
Oh,
name
yeah,
and
sorry.
stuff? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
David Blatt, 23 Applegate Lane. I sent a letter to you all earlier in the week, and I do commend you all, thank you all for the thought, effort, time, consideration that is going into crafting of this rent regulation. I want to reiterate just how much we love spending time here. I was supposed to be here with my wife and our son, but time got kind of messed up. But you know, before we decided to purchase our home, we met with representatives of the town. We asked them if there was rules on short-term rental. They assured us there was not. We want to abide by the rules. We want to have a regulation that we can fit within. We want to be productive members of this town. We've enjoyed spending time here. We've enjoyed meeting people here, and we've enjoyed sharing our home with others and seeing how much others enjoy the home and spending time in this beautiful place. Let's see. We are genuinely excited to hopefully have clear guidelines that we can fit within. We want to have safe homes. We want to have places that have monitoring and technology and things that ensure that people who spend time in our homes are not being a nuisance to town and to others. I gave my notes earlier about why I felt that the arbitrary cap of 8 people didn't make sense to us without consideration into what the home is, how it's constructed, the size of the property, and kind of some of the strictness around the type of gathering that people are having at the home. So, additionally, we just felt that the cap of the total number of Airbnbs or short-term rentals in the town deserves to be looked at, especially if you obtained a permit from Dutchess County and have been doing your best to operate legally. We just request that you take some of these things into consideration and look forward to hopefully working with you on a draft of the regulation that works for all. And we can continue to enjoy this place with our family and friends. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak. My name's Joe Kelly. I live on 67 Cromwell Road. And my wife Jeannie, she manages the property, and I co-manage with her at David Bletz Property. And I just want to echo what David said, because David did do his due diligence before purchasing the property. And he did check Airbnb, and they said they had nothing. And just to follow up, Jeannie as well called the town and asked the same thing. Hey, we want to be compliant. Just want to make sure that, we're abiding by any rules that you have. And they said, well, there is no rules on the books right now, so you're good to go. And she said, don't quote me on this, but if they do put rules in place, you'd be grandfathered in. But we're all for, we think it's a great thing. Appreciate everybody, what you had to say. It's really great. I like the part about when you get someone complaining, they just don't want people there. That makes perfect sense. It appears what we're dealing with up there. And another thing I want to just bring up is you all acknowledge that there's Airbnbs in the town, okay? But David was put under scrutiny back, if you go back and look at 6/10/24, he was forced to pay $4,000 for or probably was more than that, for an interpretation, and it just didn't make sense, because this lady apparently was coming down complaining, I don't know for sure, but she even came here with her lawyer, and she's saying how we served you a cease and desist and blah, blah, blah. Wait a minute, I thought that was the town that did that. But anyhow, don't want to ramble on too much, just making a point that you said it perfectly clear. You get a neighbor that's complaining or just doesn't want people there, and I just want you all to know that we have cameras all around that property, and if anybody is not behaving, they're not, we let them know. We see what's going on. My wife Jeannie will actually call them and say, hey, knock it off or close that garage door or whatever they have going on. So it's well run, it's well managed, and the codes or the rules that you put in place look good. Just the 8-bedroom thing, or 8 max people is a concern, because this is a 8-bedroom house, and it could potentially sleep about 20 people. So, I understand you have the variance, and that's great. So, I think that's all I have to say. The only thing I just wanted to mention, the board, the chair, acknowledged that she worked for the family of the complainant, or the neighbor, I'll say, but she was the complainer, and she should have reclused herself, because at the end of the meeting, she says, I don't have time to go through all this. We're going to have to do another meeting, where he would have been forced to pay another $4,000.
Can I just, really quick, can I just make a point of order? Are you talking about our board? Or
No, not you. You guys are great.
So can you just keep your comments about things that we have control of?
Okay.
If you're talking about ZBA stuff and things like that.
Yeah, I just want...
There's no reason to...
No, I understand, but
air that out now.
I want the public to be aware, okay? So, okay.
That's not really what the meeting's for.
Oh, all right, well,
Thank
I thought
you.
it was, because it's, okay. Well, no problem, but this hope made my point.
If you have a complaint, though,
I think
there's
I will.
proper channels to
Yep,
do that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I make a motion to close the public comment session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And just, do you
Yes.
mind entertaining something really quick? So I just, we have one other meeting, but it's just a random meeting to pay the bills before the end of the year. So I just wanted to remind everybody that our first meeting in January is on January 6th. There will be a swearing-in ceremony for Scott Cookingham at 6:30, so if you want to come early and take part in that, that would be great. And I wish everybody a happy holidays, whatever you celebrate.
I would like to make a motion to go into executive session for 105.1F, personnel, and,
We need to,
Attorney-client discussion?
thank you.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And everybody have a wonderful holiday. Thank you for coming.
I make a motion that we come out of executive session at 10:07 with no action taken.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I suggest that someone make a motion to set a public hearing for January 6th for a local law to change the number of members of the ZBA to 7.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 10:08.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.